Subscribe now, stay with me till the end, because what you're about to hear may completely change the way you look at old coins sitting quietly in drawers, boxes, or forgotten collections. Most people believe real treasure comes from gold bars, luxury watches, or stock portfolios. But men who've lived long enough know the truth is often quieter. Real value hides in history, in objects made to be used, touched, spent, and forgotten. Today I'm talking directly to you, the man who understands patience, legacy, and the long game. This is the story of the South Africa 1980 20-cent coin, a coin that looks ordinary, feels light in the hand, yet carries a story powerful enough to stop seasoned collectors in their tracks. At first glance, the coin doesn't shout. It doesn't glitter. It doesn't beg for attention. And that's exactly why it's dangerous to underestimate it. Coins like this were minted during a time when South Africa was going through political pressure, economic strain, and deep global scrutiny. Metal shortages, policy changes, and shifts in minting priorities all collided in ways most people never noticed. But history leaves fingerprints, and this coin carries them clearly. The 1980 period was not just another year on a calendar. It was a turning point. Decisions made behind closed doors affected how many coins were struck, how they were distributed, and how many survived in pristine condition. While millions of coins were produced on paper, the reality is far more complex. Many were melted. Many were damaged through heavy circulation. Many never made it beyond local use. What remains today is a fraction of what once existed, and within that fraction lies something even rarer. Collectors don't just look at metal. They look at timing, condition, anomalies, and survival rate. A coin from an unstable or transitional era holds a special kind of gravity. It becomes a witness. The South Africa 1980 20-cent coin witnessed a nation balancing tradition and pressure, old systems, and looming change. That tension is frozen into the coin itself. Now, let's talk about men like you. Men who appreciate craftsmanship. Men who understand that real worth is proven over time. Coins like this don't appeal to impatient speculators. They attract thinkers, historians, strategists. The kind of men who enjoy knowing something others overlook. Owning such a coin isn't about flashing wealth. It's about quiet confidence. About holding history in your palm and knowing exactly why it matters. Condition is where the story becomes even more compelling. A heavily circulated coin is interesting. A well-preserved one is powerful. But an exceptional example, untouched by wear, sharp in detail, and original in surface, enters an entirely different category. That's where competition begins. That's where serious collectors step in, not with emotion, but with calculated respect. There are coins that appear frequently, and then there are coins that vanish for decades. Some versions of this coin, especially those with specific striking characteristics, minting variations, or preservation qualities, are so rarely seen that when one surfaces, it sends a signal through private collector networks. Not public noise, quiet phone calls, closed-room negotiations, the kind of deals that never make headlines. This coin also carries emotional value, especially for men who lived through the era or understand its weight. It represents resilience, continuity, survival. It reminds us that even during uncertainty, systems continue, money moves, life goes on. That symbolism adds an invisible layer of value, one that numbers alone can't explain. Another factor many overlook is legacy. Older men often think beyond themselves. They think about what they leave behind. A rare coin isn't just an object. It's a story you pass down, a teaching tool, a piece of tangible history that outlives trends, technology, and noise. Long after screens go dark, metal remains that there's also the psychological element. Scarcity changes behavior. When people realize something is truly rare, desire intensifies. Not because of hype, but because of fear of loss, missed opportunity, regret. The South African 1980 20-cent coin exists in that space. Known enough to matter, rare enough to be dangerous. And here's where the story reaches its peak. In the world of elite collecting, Value isn't set by face value or even metal content. It's set by what someone is willing to pay when opportunity collides with obsession. When the right buyer meets the right coin at the right moment, logic steps aside. History takes over. There are whispered valuations attached to the finest known examples of this coin. Numbers so high they sound unreal. Numbers that make people laugh at first, then go silent. Because the men who understand this market know those numbers aren't fantasy. They're potential. They're possibility. They're the result of rarity, condition, history, and timing aligning perfectly. Imagine discovering that something overlooked for decades suddenly becomes the centerpiece of a world-class collection. Imagine realizing that patience, not luck, put it in your hands. That's the power of coins like this. They reward those who wait, those who study, those who respect history instead of rushing past it to so. If you've ever dismissed small change, reconsider. If you've ever thought value must be loud, think again. Some of the most powerful assets in the world sit quietly, waiting for the right eyes to recognize them. Stay with this channel, because stories like this aren't about fantasy. They're about awareness. And awareness is where opportunity begins. And now, the number that brings everything into focus. The ultimate valuation attached to the rarest, most pristine, most historically significant example of the South Africa 1980 20-cent coin has reached an astonishing figure, $81 million. Before we begin, take a moment right now. If you respect history, if you believe real wealth is hidden in unexpected places, and if you don't want to miss stories that most people will never hear, make sure you subscribe to this channel. What you're about to see is not entertainment. It's knowledge. And knowledge, as many of you already know, is powered. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and wondered where it had been before it reached you? Who touched it? Who carried it in their pocket? What silent moments of history passed while it waited, unnoticed? Today's story is about one such coin. A small coin. A forgotten coin. Yet one that has caused seasoned collectors to stop breathing for a moment when they realized what they were looking at. South Africa. The year 1947, the world was still recovering from war. Nations were rebuilding. Men were returning home older, quieter, changed. Money was scarce, and every coin mattered. In South Africa, a quarter-denomination coin was minted quietly, without celebration, without ceremony. No one at the time believed it would ever be special. It was simply currency, used for bread, used for transport, used, spent, and often lost. But history has a strange habit of hiding value in plain sight. This particular 1947 quarter coin was produced during a period of transition. The metal, the strike, the pressure used at the mint, and even the dies themselves were part of a system under stress. Machines were aging. Skilled workers were few. And mistakes, the kind that change everything decades later, were far more likely. Most people never noticed. Most people never cared. But collectors did. Years passed. Coins were melted, damaged, worn smooth by time. Very few survived in exceptional condition. Fewer still survived untouched, uncleaned, unaltered. And among those survivors, a tiny number carried subtle differences so small that only trained eyes could see them. Differences in spacing, differences in metal density, differences in strike depth and alignment, that the kind of details that don't shout. They whispered. Older collectors often say the same thing. Real treasures don't announce themselves. They wait to be recognized. Men who have spent decades studying coins know that value isn't about size. It's about story. It's about rarity. It's about timing. And above all, it's about survival. This coin survived political change, that it survived economic shifts, that it survived being overlooked. At some point, someone finally stopped and asked a dangerous question. What if this isn't just another coin? Tests were done. Comparisons made. Old mint records studied by hand, line by line. Patterns emerged that shouldn't have existed. A batch that didn't match others. A run that may never have been officially recorded. Coins that should not have been released, but were. That's when the whispers started. Not online rumors, not casual talk. serious conversations behind closed doors, private collectors, men who don't waste words or time. The coin was no longer currency. It was evidence. Evidence of a moment in history when rules bent, when errors slipped through, when something incredibly rare escaped into the world unnoticed. And here's what many people fail to understand. The value of a coin like this doesn't come from gold or silver alone. It comes from the fact that you cannot recreate it. You cannot reproduce its moment. You cannot go back to 1947 and strike it again under the same conditions. That time itself is the ingredient you can't replace. That's why men in their later years understand this better than anyone. You've lived long enough to know that rarity increases with survival. That what lasts becomes valuable not because it's flashy, but because it endures. To imagine a coin sitting in a drawer for decades, passed down without knowing, dismissed as ordinary, until one day, someone who knows what to look for picks it up, and everything changes. Phone calls are made, meetings arranged, offers discussed quietly, no auctions, no advertisements. Because coins like this don't belong in public noise. They move in silence. And now we reach the part most people will struggle to believe. Not because it isn't possible, but because they've been trained to underestimate small things. When this specific South Africa one-quarter coin from 1947 is confirmed, authenticated, and matched to the rare characteristics known only to a handful of experts, its value does not sit in the thousands. It does not stop at millions. According to private collector valuation discussions, the number attached to this coin has reached a level that changes lives. The estimated value placed on this coin is $64 million. And that is why you should never ignore what looks ordinary. Because history doesn't repeat loudly. It hides, and it waits for the right eyes to see it.